Hello, this is old Mr. Kent. I keep saying of MrKent.com, but it doesn't really matter. I'm old Mr. Kent. I'm 82 years old, and I ride an E-Trike made by electric e-bikes, and a great company. Anyway, I'm going through my life stories about 15-20 minutes at a time, and if you're interested in starting at the beginning, which most people won't be, at the end of this video there's a link that you can click on. It says life story, and it'll take you to a playlist of all the videos I've made so far. And I think probably by now it's probably up to about 60 videos. But I'll give you something to do when you're bored. To get even more bored. Well, okay, so we're up to the year around 2000. I don't know exactly. I know it was around 2000. And I had been teaching at a computer school in Spokane, Washington. And as I said in the last video, it got to be where it was just a chore because every night you had to make a new license, a new teaching plan, So anyway, for the next day. So I heard about a job for Microsoft to be a tech support. I took the test and passed, and they hired me. And of course, then and they were out in out East Spokane, out in the valley. And so I'm trying to think if I've forgotten something. Anyway, so it was about a half-hour drive out there, and I think the first 2 weeks was training, where they taught you how to how to handle customers and stuff like that, and how to use the equipment. And that was fun because I met a lot of fun people, crazy people like me. And so then at the end of and they put you through a test. They'd have simulated, they'd put you in a booth there, and somebody would call in and you'd help them out. And I did that okay. They liked that. So then, as it turns out, I got through the training period, and it was time to go to work. And by the way, they gave me a really wonderful schedule. I mean, if you've been following my videos, I did sign on at a radio station for 15 years, which meant for 15 years I got up at 4 o'clock every morning. And so I was used to getting up early. So my shift started at 5 a.m. And then I got off at 2 in the afternoon. And that was a really nice schedule, because then I had all afternoon, the rest of the day, to do whatever I wanted to do. And so the only problem with that schedule was they didn't give you 2 days off in a row. So you couldn't have like Tuesday and Thursday, or Monday and Tuesday, or something like that. It had to be 2 days separated. That was kind of a bummer, because then, if you wanted to go do something, visit friends or family, well then there just wasn't any way to get around it. So anyway, that was the only bad thing. And what they did, they put you in this room, huge room, had 1,000 people doing the same thing, and they put you in a booth, and if you stood up, you could see if anybody else was standing up in their booth. In other words, you were enclosed in this booth 8 hours a day. And and then you had 2 computers and a telephone with a headset on it. And so when people would call in, well, then you use one computer to record their information and all that kind of stuff. And the other computer was connected to the Microsoft knowledge base. I don't know if you're familiar with that. If you've been messing around with the computers for a while, you know that they had a knowledge base. You could actually get answers to problems using their software on the knowledge base. Most often, it was always the right answer. So, so then when somebody would call in, you'd get all their information and they'd tell you what was wrong, and so then you put them on hold, and then you go to the computer that has the knowledge base on it. You find the problem that they have, and then you get back on, and you tell them step by step what they need to do. Sometimes it was easy. Sometimes they had to, I can't remember all the names of all this stuff. Anyway, you had to go into, now my mind's blank. Anyway, maybe I can remember it and put a note there when I edit this. So anyway, you go in there, and if you screwed that up, then your computer wouldn't work. So what you had to do first of all was do a backup onto the desktop. So I'd tell them, do this, click this, and then it asked me if there was an image on their desktop. Yeah, okay. So now if we screw it up, all they had to do is double click on that image, and it would restore the computer. So when you're working over the phone with somebody, you got to make sure you don't tell them the wrong thing. So they had to do that, and then I had to confirm that they could see that little image on their desktop. So then you would go through the steps that they needed to do. Sometimes, there was sometimes when they had to reboot the computer 2 or 3 times in order to get it to work right. So, but it was, I enjoyed working with the people and joking and having fun, and just, it was kind of a fun job. And so that's what I did. And then, but they gave you an hour lunch. Now, to me, an hour lunch, after you've been sitting in a booth for 4 hours, and then you got an hour lunch with nothing to do, I'd like to just have a half-hour lunch and get back to work, but that's not where it was. And so for an hour, you walked around, looked at things, did nothing, and then went back to work. So that was kind of a bummer. That was bad. That was a bad part of it. And then you go back to work, and I got off at 2:00. Then you go home. I like that schedule. That was a nice schedule. So you go home and spend the rest of the day doing whatever you wanted to do. Okay, so I started doing that, and one month went by, and everything's going along fine. 2 months went by, everything's going along fine. And in the 3rd month, I started getting stomach problems because, as you know, I'm out on a E-Trike, and I've always done outdoor things. If you've been following my channel, sailboats, airplanes, and and I was in this booth. Like I said, if I stood up and looked over the edge of my booth, I could see if anybody else in the building was standing up and looking over their booth. And so that's how enclosed I was. And so finally it was messing with my system. My wife could tell you, I don't know, all the things that was making me just feel terrible from being closed up. So I don't know if it was a Monday morning or what, but I was getting really tired of being closed up. So one morning I went in and I told my boss, his name was Jim, and he was the supervisor in my area. His name was Jim, and he was a really super nice guy. And I said, I think I've got to quit. I just can't do this. It's just not made for me. And he said, this is what he told me. He said, I know there's a lot of people that can't do that. And he said, but we have people calling in for help, and they want to talk to you. because they've talked to me before. And he said, "Are you sure you want to quit? Because they really like your help." And I said, "No, I'm not doing very well." And so he said, "Okay, I understand." And he said, "I'll give you a good reference." And so I quit that job. I didn't have any job to rely on, although at that time my website was doing quite well, because on my website, I think I've told you, I had several applications that were free. One of them was where an employer could log in, or could register his employees, and they could come to work in the morning and log in and click the time clock thing with their name, and then when they left in the afternoon or evening, they would clock out. And that was all kept on my server. And then when the employer wanted to pay him, then all he had to do, he downloaded that information and used it to make out their paycheck and all that kind of stuff. And I just had lots and lots and lots of employers that did that. And so I had that coming in, plus I had the typing test that I've told you about that I had. That was something that I had a lot of hits on that. So I was making quite a bit of money. I don't know, we'll say $1,000 a month off of my website. So it wasn't like I can't quit, because, and by the way, at that time also, my wife had found a job working at a bank, and she was a teller. She was the drive-through teller at a bank. And I used to joke with her, she gets to keep all the money she finds on the floor. But that's not true. Anyway, and so she was working. So, I just quit that job. So I looked around, and I tried. My son was working for a milk delivery service, and I tried to go to work with them. That would so I could. They needed somebody to answer the phone in the morning and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, I did that for a week or so, and then I told the boss, I said, this is not my kind of work. So then I thought, what am I going to do? Now remember, I was technically trained. I could do a lot of things with computers and stuff like that. And so there was just not much else I could do. Well, as it turns out, I showed you in a previous video where I lived in Spokane, and that was 2 blocks away. Okay, I know, I'm a visitor. Okay, treat me nice here, dogs. So I would live 2 blocks away from Walmart. And I thought, well, I guess I could go to work at Walmart. It was like it's a little bit below me. That's what I was thinking. So I went over and I applied, and they hired me, and went through their little introduction thing, and I was working in the hardware department, and that's where they mix the paint and they sell little tools and stuff like that. It used to, when I went to work for them, Sam was still alive, and Sam Walton, I guess his name was. Anyway, he was still alive, and they had really, really good, it was just a good place to work. So, and they treated me really nice. So I went to work there, and I enjoyed it because I was able to visit with people, and while I was mixing their paint and stuff, and I just enjoyed talking to people and help them out where I could. And then sometimes our manager, the manager of that department, he was a really nice guy, but he had to have knee operations every once in a while. Well, actually, he had a knee replacement, I guess you could say, 2 different times. And so while he was getting his knee replaced, he made me the manager of the department, and that was nice because then I come in the morning at 7 o'clock and get off early, and I had weekends off because if you're not a manager, you don't get weekends off. So anyway, so I did that, but it looks like I'm starting to run out of time here, and I want to tell you a lot more about my job at Walmart. So in the next video, I'll tell you a lot more. One thing I'll close this with, when I worked for Microsoft, and people, let's see, I think I'll just turn around and go the other way here. When I worked for Microsoft, people would say, what do you do for a living? And I'd say, I do tech support for Microsoft. And they'd say, whoa, kind of like that, you know. When I went to work for Walmart, they'd say, what do you do for a living? I said, I work at Walmart. And they would say, are you a greeter? Because by that time, you know, I was in my 50s. And but they never said, whoa. But that was fun. I enjoyed it. And so next video, I'll tell you more about my experiences at Walmart. And we're getting up to where I'm almost ready to retire. So I want to thank you for watching my videos. And God bless.